یا عباس 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 یا عباس
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔
میں دونوں بازو تیرے، میں دونوں بازو تیرے دین کی بقا غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔
چہار سمت تھی یلغار اہل باطل کی، چہار سمت تھی یلغار اہل باطل کی، علم نہ جھکنے دیا، علم نہ جھکنے دیا اور نہ خود جھکا غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔
نبھائی اس طرح شبیر سے وفا تو نے، نبھائی اس طرح شبیر سے وفا تو نے، وفا کو کہنا پڑا، وفا کو کہنا پڑا تو ہے با وفا غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔
تاریخ آج بھی جھٹلا اس سے نہیں سکتی، تاریخ آج بھی جھٹلا اس سے نہیں سکتی، تیرے ہی خون کا صدقہ، تیرے ہی خون کا صدقہ ہے لا الہ غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔
کہا سکینہ نے بابا نہ پانی مانگوں گی، کہا سکینہ نے بابا نہ پانی مانگوں گی، بلا لو خیموں میں جلدی، بلا لو خیموں میں جلدی میرا چچا غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔
پکار جائیں گے مشتاق حشر میں پہ ہوں، پکار جائیں گے مشتاق حشر میں پہ ہوں، کرے بطول کے سگ ہیں، کرے بطول کے سگ ہیں تیرے گدا غازی،
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی۔ سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا بازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا بازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا بازی، بھلا سکے گی نہ
شہید کربلا ہے دین کی بقا، ذبیح ہے نینوا حسین بادشاہ، شہید کربلا ہے دین کی بقا، ذبیح ہے نینوا حسین بادشاہ،
حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا،
حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا، حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا،
آئیں گی جب فاطمہ، آئیں گی جب فاطمہ، حالے پریشان دیکھنا،
حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا، حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا،
روبرو بابا کے جب خاتون جنت آئیں گی، خالی جھولی سرورے کونین کو دکھلائیں گی، بالیقین ٹھہرائے گا، بالیقین ٹھہرائے گا، محشر کا میدان دیکھنا،
حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا، حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا،
رکھ دیا برچی نے اکبر کا کلیجہ چیر کے، رخ بدل ڈالے ہیں امت نے تیری تصویر کے، مالک کوثر ذرا، مالک کوثر ذرا، امت کے احسان دیکھنا،
حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا، حشر میں رنگ لائے گا خون شہیداں دیکھنا،
اصغر معصوم کے لب پر سوال
یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس، تر چلے آدامن پر دے آدام، ان پر دے کون بچاوے گا، تر چلے آدامن پر دے آدام، ان پر دے کون بچاوے گا، پردیس چ دکھیا بھیڑا دے، پردیس چ دکھیا بھیڑا دے، ہن کیڑا درد بناوے گا، تر چلے آزامن پر دے آدھا، ہن پر دے کون بچاوے گا، تر چلے آزامن پر دے آدھا، ہن پر دے کون بچاوے گا، کوئی روکو ویرن غازی نو، پئی زینب رو فرمان دیے، کوئی روکو ویرن غازی نو، پئی زینب رو فرمان دیے، انج لگدا جا کے پھر کدی، انج لگدا جا کے پھر کدی، میرا ویر نہ واپس آوے گا، تر چلے پردے کون بچاوے گا ٹر چلے
اج غازی زہرا جائیں تیری آس تیرے بچ پردیسوں دے آیا بھیڑا دے بھر جایا
تیرے باجوں کیڑا
شاهی بی علم داری برادر جان علم داری سپاه من برادر جان علم داره سپاه من برادر جان علم داره سپاه من برادر جان علم داره سپاه من برادر جان فراق اکبر رنا جوانم ای برادر جان اگر چی کرد پیرانا توانم ای برادر جان ولی از مرگ تو پشتم شکستم ای برادر جان اما راه امیدم گشت بسته ای برادر جان علم داری سپاه من برادر جان علم داره سپاه من برادر جان ولی از مرگ تو پشتم شکسته ای برادر جان اما راه امیدم گشت بسته ای برادر جان دریغا گوش منانم شاد و گشتم ای برادر جان ز قید در تو غم آزاد تو گشتم ای برادر جان علم داری سپاه من برادر جان پس از مرگ تو ای جان برادر جان ندارم من دگر چون یار و یاور ای برادر جان یقین دارم که زینب خود رو گردد ای برادر جان اسیر فرقه کفار رو گردد ای برادر جان علم داره سپاه من برادر جان علم داره ای مها کن ای برادر جان سکینمون قدر از بحر آب است ای برادر جان ز سوز تشنگی بی صبر و تاب است ای برادر جان علم داره سپاه من برادر جان علم داره سپاه برادر جان صلوات محمدی رسانم بر قبر مولایم که بر دل افتها دارم زیارت کردنی قبر علی اکبر نصیبم کن خدا میداند و این آرزو را سالهاست دارم
حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
حیدر کی آل کا صدقہ زہرا کے لال کا صدقہ باقی ہے نام خدا کا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
تیرا سر معراج کی آیت تیرا جسم زمین کی دولت
تیرا جسم زمین کی دولت
تیرا خون شفق کی رنگت یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
تیرا ذکر شعور انسان تیرا سوگ دلیل ایمان
تیرا سوگ دلیل ایمان
تیرا عشق وجود یزداں یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
ہر شے کو فنا ہے مولا یہاں کون بچا ہے مولا
یا کون بچا ہے مولا
تو ہے اور کیا ہے مولا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
تو سب سے سوا ہے مولا تیرا عشق خدا ہے مولا
تیرا عشق خدا ہے مولا
تیرا درد دوا ہے مولا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
تیرا در تو کھلا ہے مولا پر مانگنا کیا ہے مولا
پر مانگنا کیا ہے مولا
تیرا نام دعا ہے مولا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
تیرا درد عطا ہے رب کی پہچان ہے یہ ہم سب کی
پہچان ہے یہ ہم سب کی
اور مرضی ہے زینب کی یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
عباس ہے اور نہ اکبر آ دیکھ کے تیری خواہر
آ دیکھ کے تیری خواہر
بازار ہے اور بے چادر یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
جب وقت وہیں پہ ٹھہرا جب سینہ اکبر دیکھا
جب سینہ اکبر دیکھا
جب تو نے سینہ کو کھینچا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
بولو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بولو بولو یا حسین یا حسین
کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے،
کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے،
بھول جائیں گے ہر غم،
بھول جائیں گے ہر غم،
بھول جائیں گے ہر غم، غم تیرا نہ بھولیں گے،
کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے،
کیسے بھول جائے مقتل حسین کو، کیسے بھول جائے فاطمہ کے بہن کو،
کیسے بھول جائے فاطمہ کے بہن کو،
خدا نہ بھولیں گے،
خدا نہ بھولیں گے،
خدا نہ بھولیں گے، غم تیرا نہ بھولیں گے،
کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے،
وہ ستم وہ ظلم وہ جفا کے سلسلے، علقمہ کے سامنے خیام جل گئے،
علقمہ کے سامنے خیام جل گئے،
نینوا نہ بھولیں گے،
نینوا نہ بھولیں گے،
نینوا نہ بھولیں گے، غم تیرا نہ بھولیں گے،
کربلا نہ بھولیں گے، کربلا نہ بھولیں گے،
قبر اصغر بنا کے اٹھا قبر اصغر بنا کے اٹھا جگہ کی میاں سے مسکرا کر بدل گیا فکر نسل آلو
مظلوم کیا رکے گی
دلوں کی ہر ایک دھڑکنوں سے ابھر رہی ہے صدائے ماتم
سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم
ادا رہے گا حسین کا غم
سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم
کمبل کے ٹوکے ہمیں زمانہ
ہمیں زمانہ
کمبل کے ٹوکے ہمیں زمانہ
ہمیں زمانہ
گزر گیا دور تازیانہ
گیا دور تازیانہ
گزر گیا دور تازیانہ
گیا دور تازیانہ
بغور سن لے جہان والے اب اس علم کے پاس باہو
سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم 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 سدا
رہے گا حسین کا غم
سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم سدا رہے گا حسین کا غم
دیوار ہے
یہ ماتم سدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے
یہ ماتم صدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے
یہ ماتم سدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے
یہ فرش عزائے صبت نبی تام شر بچھا رہے
یہ ماتم سدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے یہ ماتم سدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے
کتنی ہی اٹھے ظلمت کی گھٹا
ظلمت کی بتا
کتنی ہی اٹھے ظلمت کی گھٹا
ظلمت کی گھٹا
وہ کتنی ہی تاریخ سدا
تاریخ
بجھنے نہیں پائے شمع ادا اتنے ہی اٹھے طوفان مگر روشن یہ دیا رہے
ماتم سدا رہے ایک نسل بڑھے
ایک نسل ہٹے ایک نسل بڑھے
ایک نسل ہٹے ایک نسل بڑھے
ایک شمع بجھے ایک شمع جلے
ایک شمع بجھے ایک شمع جلے
شبیر کا ماتم ہوتا رہے نسلن بعد نسل یوں ہی جاری سلسلہ رہے
ماتم سدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے یہ ماتم سدا رہے اور اس سے سوا رہے
یہ ماتم سدا رہے
اور اس سے سوا رہے
یہ ماتم سدا رہے
اور اس سے شام ہے 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 شام.
غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں.
غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں. غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں.
بال کھولے آپ زہرا
بال کھولے آپ زہرا
آ گئی دربار میں.
غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں. غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں.
بال کھولے آپ زہرا
بال کھولے آپ زہرا
آ گئی دربار میں.
غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں. غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں.
آئینے باطل ہوا تھا ریزہ ریزہ شام میں. آئینے باطل ہوا تھا ریزہ ریزہ شام میں. آپ حیدر بولتے تھے
آپ حیدر بولتے تھے
بیٹی کی گفتار میں.
غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں. غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں.
مجھ کو عابد سے چھپا لو اے فضا جلدی کرو. مجھ کو عابد سے چھپا لو اے فضا جلدی کرو. مر کہیں نہ جائے دیکھا
مر کہیں نہ جائے دیکھا
گر مجھے اغیار میں.
غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں. غیرت شبیر ہے اور شام کے بازار میں.
یا سجاد یا سجاد یا سجاد یا سجاد داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے. 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 ان میں سرخ کا باب ان میں سرخ کا باب قافلہ سالار کی ہے. داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے. داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے. جس نے سجاد کی آنکھوں سے ہے خون جاری کیا. جس نے سجاد کی آنکھوں سے ہے خون جاری کیا. بات ساری فقط شام کے دربار کی ہے. بات ساری فقط شام کے دربار کی ہے. داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے. داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے. تو نے دینا جو
رسالات بھی روشن تیرے ایثار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے ان میں صرف کعبہ ان میں صرف کعبہ قافلہ سالار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے سنا بھائی کو یہاں ہے کہ میں یاد کروں سنا بھائی کو یہاں ہے کہ میں یاد کروں یہ جگہ میرے چچا جعفر تیار کی ہے یہ جگہ میرے چچا جعفر تیار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی ہے جس کی ہے بس لرز اٹھتے تھے یہ دونوں جہاں جس کی ہے بس لرز اٹھتے تھے یہ دونوں جہاں بے بسی کی تیری اسی غازی علمدار کی ہے بے بسی کی تیری اسی غازی علمدار کی ہے داستان درد بھری عابد بیمار کی دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی تیرا نشان ویسے اسلام دی بقا غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی جدوں دی ہوئی جدا اپنے پیو دے سینے تو جبے رکھا تے روندی شمر کمینے تو سکینہ ویکھ کے روندی ہے تیرا وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی صبح کے بعد منہ اپنا ویر رو لیا آوے کے کبھی دا میدان پہ لٹا لیا درد خیم جو بھی مارنو بچا غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی تیرا نشان ویسے اسلام دی بقا غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی دامن اٹھے کے مسلمان سے تو لے گئے دامن غازی رسل بکھے گئے چوری نہیں گھر کی کبھی ٹرتے سکھا غازی وفات دنیا دبے مثل شہنشاہ غازی وفات دنیا دبے
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Arab, and when the Quran is recited, then you listen to it and be attentive, that must be done unto you. Respected ulmas, brothers and sisters in Islam, Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, we are commencing our program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. Sister Rubab Sheikh will recite 2 verses from the Holy Book from Surah Baqarah. Sister Rubab Sheikh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون صدق الله العلي العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Therefore, remember me, I will remember you. And be thankful to me, and do not be ungrateful to me. O you who believe, seek assistance through patience and prayer. Surely, Allah is with the patient. And do not speak of those who are slain in Allah's way as dead. Nay, alive, but you don't perceive. And we will most certainly try you with somewhat of fear and hunger and loss of property and lives and fruits and give good news to patients who, when a misfortune befalls them, say, surely we are Allah's, and to Him we shall surely return. Those are they on whom are blessings and mercy from their Lord, and those are the followers of the right course. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ.
Could you please come forward and sit down over here? It will be much. Sister Farheen will talk about the tragedy of Karbala. Sister Farheen Adar Abidi.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. We are here today in the remembrance of the tragedy of Karbala and the day of Ashura. The message of Karbala is a message of all time. The day of Ashura and the lesson of Karbala live through us still today. We are here today, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, and friends. We stand here today united for the sole purpose of remembering the sacrifice of Imam Hussein. We are the living effect of his cause and his actions. 1400 years ago, Imam Hussein came to the desert of Karbala with his companions, men, women, and children, young and old alike. Together they stood against the numerous army of Yazid and fought for their beliefs, their freedom, for equality, and for peace. The message of Karbala, however, goes beyond standing by one's beliefs. Karbala is a lesson of will, of tolerance, of strength, of character, but more so, Karbala is a lesson of unity. As the brutality of Yazid increased, Imam Hussein and his companions remained united. As the water supply to their camps was cut off, they stayed united. In the heat of the desert, with a thirst for 3 days, they remained side by side. On the day of Ashura, their 10th day in Karbala, Imam Hussein and his companions stood together as one after another was martyred in the name of peace and humanity. To think, those of Karbala have brought together millions across the globe today. The purpose of Karbala is still alive. Every day someone, somewhere, is still fighting for peace, for equality, for human rights. Every day lives are lost and people are mistreated. It was once said, Kullu Yawmin Ashura, Kullu Ardin Karbala, that every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala. We can view every tragedy through two different perspectives. One can remember the event and its hardships, brutality. Though we cannot forget the events of the past, one can also view a tragedy as an event that gives hope. Though lives were lost, Imam Hussein's purpose was well served. Today we stand here together, people from every corner of the earth. We are the representation of Imam Hussein's great sacrifice, a sacrifice that is still alive today, because every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala. Thank you.
Now I am going to invite the great scholar of Islam, whose words are true guidance to us and especially to our youth. I will request the sister in Islam and the Zakra Ahle Bayt to come on the podium and speak about the great sacrifice of mankind.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the beneficent. Brothers and sisters in Islam, ladies and gentlemen, today we have gathered here to mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet of Islam. On the desert plains of Karbala, he was brutally killed, he was butchered, and he was slaughtered for the sake of Islam. He gave his life and his family. This war was fought against wrong against right. This war was fought between unjust and just. This war was fought against the atrocities, the oppressors. This war was fought. It was a unique war in this whole universe, which was fought by 30,000 troops of Yazid against 72 men of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Islam says that, O you who believe, any one of you who saves one life, it is as though he has saved the whole of humanity, as though he has saved the whole of mankind. If any one of you who destroys one life, who kills one person, it is as though he has killed the whole humanity. It is as though he has killed the whole of mankind. 1400 years ago, Muawiyah, the son of Abu Sufyan, who was the leader of the tribe of Quraysh in Mecca, had become the governor of Syria. When he became the governor of Syria, he plundered and usurped people's property. He was an unjust and a cruel ruler, and then on simple pretext, he would destroy the family of Prophet. Yet after his death, his son Yazid took over the power, and then he became the governor of Syria. And he was worse than his father. He was a cruel and unjust ruler. So as soon as he took the power, he ordered the governor of Medina to go to Imam Hussein to take the pledge of allegiance from Imam Hussein to Yazid. And Yazid ordered that if Imam Hussein does not surrender to his will, if Imam Hussein will not pay pledge of allegiance to Yazid, so the head of Imam Hussein should be brought to Damascus. The order was given to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam refused to bow in front of the unjust ruler. He refused to bow. He refused to surrender in front of the unjust and a cruel ruler like Yazid. Imam Hussein said that I do not mind giving my head, I do not mind giving my blood, but I will not surrender to this cruel and unjust ruler. And now Imam Hussein very well knew that by refusing the allegiance to Yazid, there is going to be a lot of bloodshed in Medina. He left Medina and he went to Mecca along with his family. When he went to Mecca along with his family, it was the month of Hajj, and Imam Hussein realized that Yazid's people have come as Hajis, disguised as Hajis. They have come to perform Hajj, but in the intention of killing Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now Imam Hussein along with his family, he left Mecca, and meanwhile, people from Kufa wrote several letters to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, inviting him to come to Kufa. And they wrote in his letters, "O Hussein, O grandson of Prophet, we are there to take care of you. We are there to look after you. We will give you asylum. You can bring your family and your children and your ladies." And while Imam Hussein left from Mecca towards Kufa, in the midway, Umar Saad sent 1,000 troops along with Hur to go and stop Imam Hussein from entering Kufa. Yazid came to know about the happenings in Kufa, and Yazid ordered that all the roads leading to Kufa should be blocked and should be guarded by the troops of Umar Saad. All the roads leading to Kufa were guarded by the troops of Umar Saad, and Hur along with his army, Hur along with 1,000 men comes and blocks the way to Imam Hussein. And then Imam Hussein sees that the people of Hur and all his animals had run out of water, and they were all dying of thirst and hunger. Imam Hussein enters his camps and brings all the water, and then he feeds, he gives the water, he quenches the thirst of all the animals and the people of Hur. Hur surrenders Imam Hussein from all the sides, and he takes Imam Hussein alayhi salam to the plains, to the desert land of Karbala. Imam Hussein and his brother Abbas, they pitched their tents next to the river Euphrates, and on 7th of Muharram, Ibn Ziyad orders that all the camps of Hussein should be removed from the bank of Euphrates. They should be taken away several miles from there. Hussein did not resist. He took all the camps. They went several miles away from the river, and from 7th of Muharram, there was not even a drop of water which was left in the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Oh brothers and oh sisters, you have to see, you have to ponder, and you have to think that the people who committed the atrocities on Hussein and his family were none other than the so-called Muslims, the oppressors of those days. And now there was no water. The children were thirsty. They were dying of thirst. And on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein alayhi salam comes to the battlefield, and he says, "O people, O you Muslims, what have I done wrong? I have not harmed anyone. I am a harmless person. I am a noble person. You have seen my grandfather carry me on his shoulders. What have I done to you all? I have not wronged anyone. I have not hurted a small little animal. Why are you adamant to cut my head? Why are you adamant to take away my life and shed the blood of my children, to shed the blood of Hussein? As soon as Umar Saad heard this, he put the arrow, he fixed the arrow to the bow, and he says, "O Muslims, bear witness that I am the first person who is shooting the arrow towards Hussein's camp." As soon as he shot the arrow, there were showers of arrows on the camps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The arrows and the spears rained at his camps. Imam Hussein alayhi salam's eldest son, Ali Akbar, was 18 years old and was resembling the Prophet of Islam. He comes to the battlefield. He was mounted on the horse, and he tells the enemies, "O enemies of Islam, O the so-called Muslims, what have you done to you all? My father has harmed no one. My father is a noble person. Leave my father alone. He has not wronged any. He has not made lawful unlawful. He has not turned unlawful things to lawful. Why are you adamant to cut his head, to shed his blood?" And now the arrows rained at Ali Akbar, and Ali Akbar was surrounded by the enemies. They showered spears at him, and one spear was stuck in the chest of Ali Akbar, and the end of the spear broke and it was thrusted in his chest. Ali Akbar calls out to his father, "Oh father, accept my last salams." As soon as Hussein hears this, he goes towards the battlefield. As soon as he reaches the battlefield, he sees that his 18-year-old son is on the hot sand, struggling for life. He is drenched in the pool of blood. His whole body is muted from head to toes. There were wounds all over his body. Hussein calls out to him. Hussein says, "Ana Ali Akbar. Oh my son Ali Akbar, where are you? I am old, oh my son. I cannot see anything." He started walking on his knees, and he reached to his young son, and he sees that his young son is struggling for life. And Imam Hussein saw that Ali Akbar's one hand was kept on his chest. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, "Oh Ali Akbar, why have you kept this hand on your chest?" Ali Akbar said, "Oh my father, you're old, you're tired. Since morning you've been picking up the dead bodies. Oh my father, you will not be able to look at my chest." But Imam Hussein insisted that Ali Akbar should remove his hand from his chest. As soon as Ali Akbar removed his hand from his chest, the old father, the tired father, the wounded father sees a spear is thrust in his young son's chest. And then Imam Hussein alayhi salam puts his hand to remove the spear. Imam Hussein's hands were trembling. As his hands were trembling, the spear started shaking. When Imam Hussein tried to remove the spear, the chest of Ali Akbar came out. The earth of Karbala was trembling. One by one, the family of Imam Hussein, they go to the battlefield and they are martyred. Now there is no one left except a holy Imam. He is all alone. His young brother is dead. His nephew Qasim is dead. His nephews Anna Muhammad are dead. Now Ali Akbar is dead. Now there is no one to take care of Imam Hussein. There is no one to console him. Now Imam Hussein stands on the pulpit and calls out, "Oh, is there anyone who will come to my rescue? Is there anyone who can come to help me?" But the history said that there was sound of cries from the camp of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein alayhi salam goes to the camp and he sees that little baby Ali Akbar has Muslims on the other side. This baby is dying of thirst. He carries the little baby in his hand and he goes to the battlefield. He calls out to the people, "Oh people, is there any Muslim in you? See, my little baby is hungry and thirsty. Since 3 days, my baby has not had a drop of water. Is there any Muslim in you who will have pity and sympathy on my little baby?" There was no one there to have sympathy and pity. And Hurmala took the spear, he fixed it to the arrow, he takes the arrow and he fixed it to the bow, and then he shoots the arrow, he shoots the spear on the dry small neck of the 6-month-old baby. Now the spear gets thrust in the dry neck of Ali Asghar. Ali Asghar looked at his father and he smiled. The blood gushed out from his neck and Ali Akbar breathed his last. Now Hussain covers his little baby in his cloak. He comes to the camp and then Rabab comes running and she says, "Oh Hussain, have they quenched my baby's thirst? My baby was thirsty since 3 days." Imam Hussain says, "Oh Rabab, I pleaded with the enemies. I pleaded with the Muslims to give a few drops of water to my child, but they quenched his thirst with his blood." Rabab takes the little baby in her arms and then she kisses the baby and she says, "Oh my Ali Asghar, I salute you and I'm thankful to you for giving your life for the noble cause, for giving the life to save Islam." Now Hussain is alone. There is no one there to help Hussain. Hussain goes to the battlefield. He enters the battlefield. Hussain is hungry. Hussain is thirsty. Hussain is wounded. The blood is gushing out of his body. Now Hussain is surrounded by enemies. He is all alone. There are spears rained at him. Arrows rained at him. Now Hussain is on the horse, but his head is spinning. He is feeling dizzy due to weakness. He falls on the ground. It was time for prayers. It was time for prayers. Now Hussain puts his head on prostration. As soon as Hussain prostrated on the land of Karbala, Shimre Maloon takes a blunt sword in his hand and he goes to the battlefield. He climbs on the chest of Hussain with a blunt sword 17 times. 17 times he runs the blood sword on the dry, parched neck of Imam Hussain. The neck is separated from his body. The head is pierced on the lance and now the head is raised. Now the earth of Karbala was trembling. The sky went red with rage. There was silence everywhere. Hussain is no more. There are sounds of Allah qad qutala al-Hussain bi Karbala. Allah zibha al-Hussain bi Karbala. The animals were crying for Hussain. The birds were shedding tears for Imam Hussain. The birds were chirping and asking Allah, "Oh, who has done this injustice on our Lord?" The silence was only broken by the drum beats of the enemy's camp. They were celebrating the victory. And oh, brothers and sisters, this is why we have gathered here to mourn the death of the grandson of our prophets. Thanks.
Brothers and sisters, I have to finish this program before 5 o'clock. So now I have to assign the time to everyone who is going to come. First of all, I'm going to invite Brother Sayyid Ali Raza. I am inviting my young brother in Islam, whose voice is the touch, the soul of each and every one of us. I will ask him to come on the podium and pay his Nazrana-e Aqidat. Brother Sayyid Ali Raza.
میرا حسین باغی نبوت کا پھول ہے حیدر کی اس میں جان ہے خون بطول ہے اتنی عظیم ذات ہے مولا حسین کی اتنی عظیم ذات ہے مولا حسین کی جس کے لیے رسول کے سجدوں میں طول ہے دنیا میں اور کون ہے شبیر کے بغیر ایسا سوار جس کی سواری رسول ہے خوشیاں سبھی نثار ہے اس پر جہان کی جس کو غمیں حسین میں رونا قبول ہے حیدر کی اس میں جان ہے خون بطول ہے سلام
To address the community and to deliver his thoughts, I am requesting Brother Istifa Naqvi, the President of Jafria Association of North America. Brother Sayyid Istifa Naqvi.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Before I start, I request you to please have dua for our brother Manzoor Bukhari, who was here with us 15 years ago and he's sick right now. We want to pray for him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him the health, and inshallah we will see him in New York very soon. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We thank to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have just completed 16th Muharram procession in New York. And we are proud of you for your organization, the way you behaved in the streets. We are also thankful to the Permanent Mission of Pakistan and the U.S. Pakistan Consulate in New York. We are also thankful to the New York Finest, the New York Police Departments, for the professional help and the way they cooperated with us. We also salute the New York Brevis, the New York Fire Department, what they went through in recent years in New York. We are also thankful to the Mayor of New York for having this parade for us here. Brothers and sisters, we are here to celebrate, to commemorate the life of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. Imam Hussain was the grandson of the Prophet, and he was the first one to fight against the terrorism. The recent cycle of violence, which started in the 12th century at the order of the Pope Urban II, as we know the Crusaders of Europe. They butchered each and every Muslim, and including Jew, in Europe in 12th and 13th century. That same cycle of violence came to the borders of the United States, and on September 11th, 3,000 innocent lives was lost to a criminals. The day September 11 cannot be forgotten in the history of humankind. It is the darkest day of the human history. Whereas 3,000 civilian life was lost at the hand of those who have no moral values, those who don't have no conscience, and those who have no religion. My brothers and sisters, if Jeffrey Dahmer, Jim Jones, David Koresh, so on and so forth, and Ku Klux Klan cannot be identified to their race and to their religion because they are the same criminal as they are. There should be no reason, there should be no just to identify these people with Muslim or Islam. These are the people who have nothing to do with Islam because each and every tenet of Islam does not permit to take anyone's life other than human life. We also very much encourage with the U.S. policies regarding to taking care of these people. And as we told earlier to the officials of the United States a couple of years ago, the Taliban are not Islam and they are not Muslims. We must realize that Islam, the true Islam, comes from Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. True Islam comes from the followers of Ahlul Bayt. True Islam comes from those who follow the line and the family of Prophet. Brothers and sisters, all over us, we are very much thankful to President Bush for taking care of these Taliban in Afghanistan. We are also encouraged by the policies that President Bush is trying to determine there should be no more terrorists in this entire universe. But the question is, if the human life in New York have same value, the human life or human blood spread in any part of the world. As I am speaking to you at this moment, there are 5,000 children are dying in Iraq. Every 7 minutes, one child dies in Iraq. Why? Because it is the U.S.-led embargo with taking the life of innocent kids, children. We urge President Bush to please, on the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the name of the God, to please lift the sanctions because the children of that country can live like humans. And also, let me point out to you that might is power never works. The iron fist rule not going to last forever. It is for those who have power. they must understand power is not going to solve the peace. The peace can only be achieved in the universe. Terrorism can be finished in this world if the United States and the Western country rethink its policies and should rethink and say what they are doing wrong, and they should come to the world with kindness and with humble. They should provide what they need, not the bullets, chemical war, or nuclear bombs. On the domestic front, we are also very happy what the President Musharraf have done for Pakistan and for Pakistanis in Pakistan and for the entire world here. But we do not understand, and we are puzzled. The still killing is going on in Pakistan of the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Since 1994 to 2002, there were 178 daughters being killed, target killing, and professional was killed in Pakistan. In recent 2 months, the bomb was blasted in a mosque in Rawalpindi, in Shah-e-Najaf, and Dr. Safdar was killed in Karachi, Pakistan. And the most powerful government of Pakistan is not able to apprehend anyone. We urge to the President of Pakistan, for God's sake, save the name of Islam. Do not bomb the churches and the mosques in Pakistan. We also demand to Pakistani government to please find out and punish the person who is the kidnapper and the killer of Daniel Pearl. Those who recently bombed in the Protestant church in Pakistan, they must be punished and they must be apprehended, because this is not Islam. Islam does not allow anyone. Even Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when conquered Constantine, he did not pray in a church because he respected the church. What kind of Islam we are preaching in Pakistan? At the end, because time is running out from us, we have only a few minutes left. In the end, the Muslim Ummah, for the prosperity of Islam, for prosperity of Muslim, the best religion in the world, and the best people in the world, we have to mend ourselves. We cannot get through Islam if we do not follow the family of Ahlul Bayt. If we really want to practice Islam, we should come to the house of Ahlul Bayt. We should follow the Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Without following Hussein, we cannot have true Islam. And Islam, what the world see, is the Islam of those who thought Islam is a dictatorship. Islam is a religion of humbleness. And for my other brothers who are listening here, those you must understand, the train of Islam was distract at the death of the Prophet, and Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan hijacked the train. And what the result was, the train collided with World Trade Center in New York. Let's amend the Islam. Let's see what Islam is all about. Islam should be taken from Ali ibn Abi Talib. Islam should be taken from the house of Prophet of Islam, not from those who do not even understand what Islam is all about. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Brothers and sisters, our last speaker of today, I am very honored to announce that among us we have a very distinguished and a great scholar. I am requesting Maulana Jihadi Ismail, the great scholar, whose speeches are full of thoughts, a person who is delivering the message so effectively and reaching out the community large. It's a great honor to invite Maulana Jihadi Ismail. Please honor him with a loud salawat.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. I take this opportunity to ask all my brothers and sisters in Islam and all my brothers and sisters in humanity to spend a few minutes in reciting Fatiha and a minute of silence for the innocent lives that were not spared on 9/11. Who could have done such immense evil, someone may ask. We all have asked this question as many times as we have seen the pictures on television. Every viewing fills us with unspeakable sadness. Are people calling themselves Muslims capable of such atrocities? Are they reading the same Quran? Are they the followers of the same Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi? As Muslims, we are expected to know the answer. People ask us on a daily basis to explain the mind and motivation of terrorists and seek Islamic explanation for the actions of the hijackers. Our neighbors, colleagues that we work with, and every people we meet on the street want to know what kind of a Muslim would do such horrendous thing or act. They believe we in fact can provide a rationale for how people become suicide bombers, mass murderers, and justify their evil. I tell them what the Quran actually said. Even if you stretch your hand against me to kill me, I shall not stretch out my hand against you to kill you. I fear God, the Lord of the universe. I paraphrase the teaching of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his household. The murder of one innocent person is akin to the murder of the whole community and humanity. I tell them that the Prophet forbade the killing of civilians, women and children, the old and infirm, the wanton destruction of property, burning of crops and slaughter of animals, even in a full-scale war. They ask us about martyrdom. Aren't the suicide hijackers buying a ticket straight to heaven? Islamic ideology and theology, I tell them, is not a business transaction. No one but no one knows where they will end up save Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Islamic doctrine of martyrdom was crystallized in the action of our beloved Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, on the battlefield of Karbala in 680 AD. He stood with his 70-odd followers against an army of 30,000 well-equipped soldiers to uphold justice against injustice in the full knowledge that it would cost him his life. His sacrifice was the inevitable consequence of holding firm to what is morally right, not sought after self-chosen, willful sacrifice of one acting beyond any moral or ethical restraint. Suicide hijackers disdain the preciousness of each and every one of God's creation. Themselves and their victims, they cheapen the name of a martyr. To sacrifice one's property, security, and comfort, and if there is no other way, one's life for the cause of what is right and just, like Imam Hussein has done, is martyrdom for all faiths. But faith also teaches the limit of a human understanding, that we will be able, that we all be judged, and the meaning of all our actions made clear by the most compassionate, the all-knowing. Martyrdom, like life, is the gift and judgment of God, not of men. Only within the bounds of belief, within attachment to the duties of faith, can anyone hope to walk the path of paradise. Creating the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven is the basic message of Islam. This is the true meaning of jihad. Now there is a word, the very mention of the term sends shivers down civilized spines and leads many glibly towards holy war. Surely these paradise-seeking martyrs have declared jihad on America. Acts of terror are not jihad. They violate the explicit word of God, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the teaching of the family of the Prophet, and the reasoned consensus of all believers. The greatest jihad is the war on injustice in one's own soul. The injustice that can conceive of terror tactics and lose all restraints and respect for the sanctity of a human life. Jihad is the reasoned struggle of each individual to work within the bounds of moral action to extend the protection of justice equitably to every human being, irrespective of color, creed, or place of origin. Jihad is the obligation to make peace a living reality for all human beings. All this, the belief of the vast majority of Muslims, is the antithesis of the credo of the suicide bombers. We try to live a good life in the hope of paradise. We seek to do justice that paradise may be granted to us. We walk humbly before God, not claiming divine assurances as our prerogative. In case you are wondering, I am paraphrasing a biblical verse from the book of Micah 6:8 in the Old Testament, a common framework for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. Islam cannot explain the actions of the suicide hijackers, just as Christianity cannot explain the gas chambers. The faith I hold, the faith of Muslims, the justice we seek is an obligation to promote and make real in each life freedom from tyranny, neglect, need, dearth, and suffering. The justice we yearn for is the lifeblood of a humane society with dignity and freedom for all. It cannot be found by blasting innocents apart in an inferno of twisted metal and concrete. When the innocent are murdered, we all go into dark with them. When the innocent suffer, their suffering is ours as well. Therefore, I call upon all my Muslim brothers and sisters to live up to the name of Islam, which in itself literally means peace. Let us all together join our forces to struggle against any form of oppression and injustice in any way, shape, or form. Let us be a shining example of the message of Imam Hussein in Karbala when he stood there alone calling out, "Is there not anyone who would come to our assistance and help?" Let us be a true role models of the message of Imam Hussein in Karbala when he said, "I did not come out in arrogance and conceit, but rather to restore and reform what evil and carnage has been committed in the name of Islam." Let us say to all the people around the world that the message of Hussein and the message of Islam are one and the same, and that is justice for all, and there is no room for oppression and tyranny for anyone in our civilized modern world that we live in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you on this day, and I ask the organizers of this particular procession to utilize this particular forum to propagate the true meaning of Islam in a way that would be appealing to our host, the American nation. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
As brief as possible, I'll try and only mention the outline that I'd actually prepared. Islam itself talks about life. Live and let live. There isn't a message in Islam that says kill and die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of his names is Muhyi, the one that gives life. In Islam there is a rule, even if you are only having a glass of water that you can use to wash for the prayers, which is a ritual that you must perform. If there is an animal that is starving or that is thirsty and will die without water, you must not perform that ablution and give the water to that animal to live. If you do, then your ablution is wrong and your prayer is void. Islam itself says that the message said by the Holy Prophet, when you enter a town, let alone the women, the older men, the children, even if a tree has a single green leaf on it, that is a sign of life, you must not destroy that tree, because Islam talks about life. When the Imam ﷺ speaks about life, he says, Imam Zain al-Abidin, when one of his camels was giving him hard time, he held the stick in his hand to hit it and said, I would have hit you if I knew that Allah will not ask me to pay my charges to hit a camel. Islam does not allow you to even hit the animals. Islam says, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ, Quran reads, even on the day of judgment, the animals that are being killed and hit without any purpose will be brought to justice by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these will speak against us, even if they were animals. The trees that you cut down have life. The last thing, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, when the enemies decided to kill him, he said, let me leave the country, I'll go as far as India to save my life, not because I'm scared to give my life, but because I don't want any one of the enemies to shed the blood of the grandson of the Holy Prophet, to have their hands in the crime of the blood of the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Because I don't want you to shed my blood, I would like to leave Iraq. They said, no, your death or you either pay allegiance. He said, I'll not accept oppression and tyranny. I'll give my life, my children. And the last message of Sayyid al-Shuhada, even Ali Akbar, because he had a sword in his hand, you could say that he was there to fight and the enemy got the wrong message. But what about the 6-month-old baby Ali Asghar, who could not hold a sword, said when Sayyid al-Shuhada brought him that this indicates that I'm oppressed and not the oppressor, because the young baby cannot fight, he is here only to quench his thirst. At last, the famous British writer Charles Dickens, when writing about the world history, says that remember, whenever I see Hussein, I remember that if it was for the personal reasons and to quench the thirst of his evil desires, Hussein had gone to Karbala. I do not understand why he took his children, his wife and his sisters in the plains of Karbala. Therefore, it sounds and it seems and prepares the ground for the reasons that Hussein did not go there to quench the personal desires or the evil desires. He was there to save the humanity and the human civilization. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salawat.